Welcome into the CHGO White Sox Podcast. On today's show, we'll be hearing from their newest signee, Austin Slater, on why he came to Chicago, and we'll talk about sack bunts. Woo! Welcome into the CHGO White Sox Podcast, brought to you by our friends over at Sunnyside. Coming to you live on this Sunnyside Summer Thursday. This is the CHGO White Sox Podcast. Visit sunnyside.shop for bright buys every day, including 50% off your first 3 online purchases. Enter promo code HICHGO at checkout to qualify. Exclusions apply. Sunnyside Cannabis Dispensary. Bright buys every day, only for 21 plus or Illinois medical card holders. Welcome into Studio A of our CHGO offices here in the snowy Chicago. I'm your host, Sean Anderson. Alongside me, the full CHGO White Sox crew. That is Vinnie Duber, our CHGO White Sox beat writer. You can read his work at allchgo.com. The man in the middle is Herb Lawrence.
Hello.
He's our CHGO White Sox community leader. We're being produced today by our pal, Kevin Wells.
Gentlemen, what's going on?
Nothing much.
Pleasure to be back.
You have a hat on because it's cold.
I was going to say, it's summer. It's a summer Thursday?
Well, I just, I kind of want it to be summer.
I wish. Woo. No, thank
you. Guys got lucky and you drove here.
Yeah.
I had to brave it. I'm Chicago tough.
You walked?
Walked 33 blocks once we figured it out. But anyways, on today's show, we're going to be talking about Austin Slater. He spoke to the media today. We'll talk about the White Sox offseason and if Slater said anything interesting about what their offseason might look like. And then we'll talk a little bit about sack bunts because that's everyone's favorite topics. Make sure you hit that thumbs up button. Make sure you're subscribing to the CHGO Sports YouTube channel on the Sunnyside Summer Thursday. And our pals, the CHGO Blackhawks crew, they have a pre and post game tonight. So we got a ton of Chicago sports coverage for you. Also tonight, Vinny's going to be in the Discord. Vinny's going to be spinning some records. So if you are a diehard or want to sign up, go to allchgo.com/diehard. You get to ask Vinny any questions from side A to side B. So if it's 42 minutes of a record, it's 42 minutes of questions. And he was nice and he extended it last week.
We got Snow Informer album.
What?
Oh, never mind. You never heard the song Informer by Snow?
Informer.
Don't know what any of
I
that
like you
is.
boom boom down.
That one.
That doesn't sound like
you
anything.
would absolutely hate it.
Doesn't sound like anything that I've got in my collection, I'll be honest with you.
You're
It's
listening
like
to
Vanilla Ice, but like terrible rapping in reggae voice.
right.
Oof.
If Vanilla Ice, Vanilla Ice,
You said it right.
Vanilla Ice was reggae. And maybe you could listen to Arcadium Start. What is it?
Stadium Arcadium. Don't have that one. That's a very expensive one because it's what? Like there's like
2006?
50 songs on it or something like that, and it's kind of new. Yeah, right. Yeah.
I was just mentioning it because of snow. All right. Anyways, we're getting too deep into the show before playing Austin Slater. Let's get into it. Austin Slater was asked, "Why did you come to Chicago?" And here is Austin Slater's answer.
Yeah, for me personally, it was a pretty disappointing season. But I think there are some silver linings in that, my play improved at the end of the season after making some adjustments. And getting traded twice, even though it kind of uproots your personal life and can be stressful in that sense, it means that there's teams out there that want you. So I'm taking away those silver linings, and then, free agency started and White Sox were the first team to reach out. They told me that I was their top target, and, that was, both super encouraging and, I think that meant a lot, considering how difficult I felt like last year went. And talked to Will Venable a couple times before signing, and got really good vibes from him, and just like the message that he was putting forth of opportunity to playing time and being a leader in the clubhouse, were both pretty important things for me. Throughout this process of free agency. I say process, it went pretty quick. I'm excited, and I'm thrilled about the opportunity.
What kind of were the conversations about role? I mean, obviously you're a guy who's hit lefties very well, throughout your career, but are you to kind of show you can do both, if the opportunity is there?
Yeah, even though that's been my role for many years, I've always considered myself an everyday player. I think that mentality has helped me actually excel in the role that I've been asked to play. And there are no guarantees, and nor would I expect that to be the case. I think your play always dictates how much playing time you get, and but I think on paper it's a great fit in terms of the lefty outfielders and my career stats against lefties to kind of shield some guys from some platoons and platoon splits, and the versatility too to play all three outfield spots, I think was a draw for them as well. So yeah, I'm excited.
Hey, Austin. What does it mean to be able to have a landing spot already in here in November?
Yeah, I think it's very comforting. I just welcomed my first child into the world 2 weeks ago, and like I said earlier, getting traded twice with a pregnant wife, and moving across the country a couple times, and to be able to settle and find a spot, right away, kind of settles the off season a little bit for us. The what ifs and the all the personal life drama that can kind of arise from, the uncertainty that is the baseball ecosystem. So super excited about that. And then we landed in, personally my favorite city in the league in terms of always visiting. So I'm excited to get to Chicago and settle in and, explore the city some more.
Hey, Austin, this is kind of year 2 of the latest incarnation of the rebuild for the White Sox. And I know it's not exactly like you're an old guy, but you've been in the league a little bit. So along with contributing on the field, what kind of responsibilities do you kind of see, and do you kind of embrace that with, working with even the younger players on the team?
Yeah, I think, that conversation will continue throughout the off season and, the early parts of the season of what that role looks like, and what I can contribute both from like an experience level and hopefully off the field level as well. I've always told guys that it starts off the field, and if you can be in a stable situation mentally, physically, off the field, it's only going to help you translate it to on the field. So that's a conversation that Venable and I will continue to have moving forward, and it was something that I really enjoyed, taking on that role in Baltimore with the young squad that they had, and kind of just try to level with guys and whatever way I could, and wherever they were personally and professionally, and kind of just help nurture and mature them as much as possible.
You didn't have a long time working with him, but what was your connection like with Ryan Fuller in Baltimore?
Oh, Ryan's the best. I think he understands the swing, which is obviously very important. But what I took away the most, I think, was what he talked about on the mental side of the game, especially for hitters, it being so up and down and frustrating at times. And I thought he had a lot of great wisdom and teaching points on that aspect of the game. So I'm excited to continue working with him and see him quite a bit this season.
Hey, Austin, you talked about talking with Will Venable. Just, can you go a little more in depth on that, and maybe what, as a former big leaguer, he's able to kind of do to connect to you guys and kind of make you guys feel more comfortable? Yeah,
I think he understands the struggle that is being a big leaguer. Not everyone are the Juan Sotos and the Aaron Judges of the world, and to have a guy that bounced around and in his own words was at the end of a roster quite a few times, and played the game for the love of the game. It's comforting, and I think he also just his personality in general was very calming and very relaxed, which I think players typically respond to, when baseball can be such a high pressure, anxiety driven game sometimes.
Austin, something Ryan talked about was kind of doing things to keep you like closing your swing a little bit more and allow you to make good swing decisions, but also kind of getting your bat angle ready to be in the zone kind of a little bit sooner. How did you kind of see that stuff play out down the stretch last year? And is there kind of more still to refine as you go into the next year?
Yeah, I think there's always more to refine with your swing. As soon as you think you got it figured out, the game comes and humbles you quite a bit. So, always striving to get better in that regard. And but for me, like with the adjustments that Ryan and the other coaches in Baltimore helped me make, were just getting into my back hip so that I could stay a little more stable in my stance and my stride, and help me to to be on time more consistently and more balanced consistently, so that I could track the ball more and get my swing off without feeling like rushed or pressured to make an early decision. So I think those results, it's a tiny sample, but I felt I was moving in the right direction and making a lot of good strides in that regard.
And kind of talking about them showing that you were their number one target right away. Did you expect the offseason to move this quickly? Were you expecting it to be a longer wait? Like, what kind of expectations did you bring into kind of your first time being in free agency?
Yeah, I was trying to go in with no expectations, which is a little hard, but I think it's every offseason is a little different. I've spent quite a bit of time tracking over the last couple of years, being involved with the union and just like the economics of baseball. How it's developed over the last couple of years, and last year being a really, really odd free agency. It was, my loose expectation was, okay, I'm either going to sign super early, and you saw teams last year like the Royals strike really early, the Braves as well, and then every other team seemed like they waited till just about spring training started. So I guess the loose expectation was like, all right, it's either going to happen really early, I'm a clear target for some teams, or I'm going to have to wait it out and make a decision right around spring training. So I'm glad this is the way that it went, and excited about the spot that I landed in.
Austin, you talked pretty glowingly about working with Ryan. Was his presence, I don't know if the timeline matches up here, but was his presence with the White Sox part of the decision-making process for you to come aboard?
That was definitely a part of it. I saw that like a couple days before the White Sox originally reached out, but my agent advised that I not reach out to him just for, I guess, negotiating purposes. But it was definitely a huge factor for me, to work with someone that I enjoyed working with and felt like had some success with, and felt like there was more to be kind of unlocked. That was a huge aspect of it, especially coming off a down season. Your relationship with the hitting coaches is pretty key, in my opinion, on how you adjust throughout the course of the season, and it has a huge impact on the stats that you have throughout the course of the season. So that was definitely a huge part of it.
He talked fairly recently about the idea of going out and getting guys who, maybe coming off seasons where they didn't do what they wanted to do, and kind of bring them back to where they've been in the past. Does that kind of give you some confidence that the team sees you as somebody who can get right back to where you've been in the past, and maybe send you in a direction that's more to your liking?
Definitely. I think that was the biggest draw for me in terms of what I was looking for this offseason. And, I think instilling that confidence in the player of like, hey, we see things that you do really well. And, you just had a down year, and it happens to everyone. And we don't think you're that player. We think you're this player. That's huge for confidence, and, can really help you turn the corner, I think.
What are some of the reasons Chicago is your favorite MLB city?
Well, I just think that, like, first of all, it's a big city feel. It feels close-ish to New York, but I think the people are incredibly nice. The food is great. The weather's great. Now, granted, I feel like every season I've been in the big leagues, I've come through in the middle of the summer. But just the atmosphere around the lake and the outdoors has been really cool to see. And so that's definitely a big draw for me.
That is Austin Slater, the newest Chicago White Sox. We are going to take a break here on the CHGO White Sox podcast and discuss more about Slater next. Our friends at Sunnyside Cannabis Dispensary are here to elevate your summer. Sunnyside is your home for judgment-free cannabis shopping. I said summer again. I just want to be taken away, folks. That's all. I mean, Austin Slater's talking about the nice weather. That's in August, okay? So I'm trying to find an escape with our friends at Sunnyside Cannabis Dispensary. They have a crazy selection with over 100 different strains to choose from with easy online ordering and in-store pickup. Wherever you are in Illinois, Sunnyside has a location for you. They have spots as far south as Champaign and as far north as South Beloit. So stop into the store nearest you for expert guidance from their staff or select from lines like Cresco or Floracal. And available now, their Good News LTO Island Vibes. You can get them in disposable vape, 510 carts, and live resin gummies. Head over to sunnyside.shop for bright buys every day, including 50% off your first 3 online purchases. Enter promo code HICHGO at checkout to qualify. Exclusions apply. Sunnyside Cannabis Dispensary. Bright buys every day, only for 21 plus or Illinois medical card holders.
Hey, Vinny. Did you know that ComEd can help save businesses more money by becoming energy efficient?
It's news to me, Herb. I did not know that ComEd did that.
Yep, the energy efficiency program can help find up to 35% in energy savings.
That's so many savings. What does a business have to do to get in on that?
All they have to do is sign up for a free facility assessment at comed.com/biz.
That sounds easy. Why are more businesses not doing that?
Maybe they forgot the website, Vinny.
I see. Okay, so it's comed.com/biz, 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 comed.com/biz.
That should do it, Vinny. I appreciate that. Terms and conditions apply. Offers are subject to change. Actual savings will vary by customers' energy usage and rate. The ComEd Energy Efficiency Program is funded in compliance with state law.
Thank you, guys. We have some reaction to Austin Slater. I think the biggest place to start, or the most important, prescient place, whatever you want to say to start, is Austin Slater saying that, quote, "The White Sox said I was their top target. It was super encouraging." Understandable from Austin Slater. Hey, someone wants me. That's a want from every human. However, I don't know if it's encouraging to me, Herb, Vinny, I think you're pretty neutral, or the chat. What do we think about Austin Slater saying that he was the White Sox top target? Is that the White Sox just schmoozing?
Maybe. And again, too, things could be lost in translation, right? Maybe Chris Getz saying your A top target gets heard as your R top target. Whatever, right? He's on the team now. He's happy to be here and he feels wanted. That's great. The other side of that coin, though, would be that maybe he was, and also why should that be surprising, right? Mm-hmm. The White Sox have telegraphed that they're not going to be doing much in free agency. Obviously, there's a pretty big, or 2 really big trade pieces out there that could fetch a more blockbuster return than a potential platoon bat has in free agency, but I don't think that anyone really should be shocked if Austin Slater is one of the White Sox biggest free agent additions this winter. Yeah, might not make you happy, but we've been talking about this being the likely outcome for a few months now. Chris Getz went on the broadcast and said they're not going to be spending much money in free agency. It's very possible that the $1.75 million that Austin Slater got might end up representing the bulk of their free agent spending. We'll find out. This is a team that is not expected to be good next year. They're focused on their young guys, waiting for their minor leaguers to come up. That might be depressing, but I do not think it should be surprising.
Free agency started in Major League Baseball on November 4th this year. It is November 21st. That is an obvious statement that the White Sox told Austin Slater. He is their top target. Now, if you believe it and or want that to be true, that's on you. I think that is the truth, that the White Sox looked at Austin Slater as a person that has had success in his San Francisco days and fell on some hard times these last couple years and said, you know what, an outfielder that can play all 3 of the spots at premium positions, like in right field, he has a good arm. He can run the bases. He can run into a couple of home runs. And remember, he played most of his home games in either San Francisco, Cincinnati, which is a small place, and then went to Baltimore, like places that are huge. I think that the White Sox looked at him and said he exactly what the White Sox should have this year, especially for the young talent that they have. And so, yeah, I think that he is not telling a lie, and neither are the White Sox. That is their top target, and it's sad to know that one of the top targets for the favorite team that you're watching is a guy that is pretty much an also-ran. But I think the White Sox think of him as a candidate to be like they did last year with Paul DeJong. He has similar things that Paul DeJong has that the White Sox signed him last year. Plus defender that spent with 3 teams the year before after being pretty much let go or sent aside from the original team that he signed with. Paul DeJong with the Cardinals, Austin Slater with the Giants. So it's very similar to what the Paul DeJong signing was last year. And if you can get the same type of value from Paul DeJong or from Austin Slater that you got from Paul DeJong, I think it's a win-win for the White Sox.
What I will say to that point, and obviously that quote is going to jump out to a lot of people, I wonder how long he was a top target for before they signed him, because I see that Ryan Fuller connection as being very important. Not obviously Slater said it was for him in agreeing to sign with the White Sox, but probably the other way too in going to get them. This is a guy that Ryan Fuller had last year in Baltimore and probably was able to shine some light at the very least, if not flat out recommend. I mean, we've heard so often how Brian Bannister, who's doing the same role on the pitching side, has just flat out been the guy driving acquisitions. Ryan Fuller's expected to be that way on the hitting side. Don't you think he probably went to Chris Getz and said, hey, this is a guy that's a good bounce back candidate. I had him last year in Baltimore. We got him a little bit back on track from what he had been doing throughout the season prior. You know, I don't know. That was a lot of stammering by me. I don't know for a fact what's going on the whiteboard in the White Sox front office, but I would assume that Ryan Fuller had a lot to do with where Slater ended up placed on that list.
Absolutely. What Slater is going to bring is speed. He's going to bring all right defense, and he's going to bring the ability to give you decent swing percentages. You bring up the bigger ballparks. I don't even think it's going to be that much of a crux if he doesn't hit like 10 homers or anything. Like, this isn't a guy that I'm expecting pop from. But again, if he gives you a 259, 352, and 421 slash line, which he did from 2020 to 2023 over 821 plate appearances, that's better than I think most White Sox hitters from 2023. He had a 115 OPS plus over those seasons. The White Sox had one player that had 100 OPS plus last year, and it was Yohan Moncada, who played 12 games. So it would be refreshing to have somebody who could at least do their job. I'm not expecting a huge bounce back from him, and even then, if he's 15% worse than that run from 2020 to 2023, he's still an average bat, which is fine for the White Sox. They didn't have that. It is, Joe, though, concerning that he is, quote-unquote, the top target. Austin Figueroa saying, who is the top target next offseason? We'll get to that in a second, but Austin did say a little bit earlier, basically just like, yikes, if this is their top target, what is this going to look like? There have been a ton of offseason plans so far put out by many Sox fans. One of them is Luke Smize, who writes over for FanFirstSports.com and Sox Populi. And the big thing that I just was really just struggling to get my head around was, here are the free agents that he signed. Max Kepler for a year, $7 million. Mm-hmm. Jacob Junis, 2 years for $20 million. Jose Quintana, 1 year, $11 million. Elias Diaz, the former All-Star MVP, 1 year, $5 million. And Ryan Stanek, 1 year, $4 million. I don't think
that's $40 million.
Right. There's also Mark Canha for $5 million. There's also
mediocrity.
There's also Nicky Lopez for $2 million. I mean, mediocre. I'll take any of those guys. I'm not going to complain. I'll take Jose Quintana. I'll take Jacob Junis.
To do what, though? To do what?
What is it? But like that's not even the point.
Well, from a
like,
fan standpoint, it's to be more watchable, I would imagine, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's to do something. I mean, but the whole point is, though, like it's not going to happen. They're not spending over $5 million AAV on a player. You saw last year, Eric Fedde get $7.5 million. You saw John Brebbia get $5.5 million. Chris Getz said he didn't like his team, and there wasn't a clear expectation of this team on how many games they would lose. Chris did say that it could have been anywhere from 110, but I think that their top-end projection had them winning possibly like 70 games. They were adding in a way to see what this team could do in April and May, and then go from there for this team. I think they have a clear vision of what this team is. This team is going to lose 110 games or around that number, and we just have to supplement the roster. I don't think you're going to see anyone over $5 million just because Chris Getz went on NBC Sports Chicago when it was NBC Sports Chicago and said, we're not spending money. They have gone to Baltimore and taken one of their hitting coaches. They have gone to Milwaukee and taken their run prevention coordinator. They have gone to Texas and taken their associate head coach or whatever his title was. The White Sox are spending money on the underbelly of the organization, and it's not sexy. It's not fun. We don't know the totals of money that they're making, but we just have to trust the process, and this process is an ugly one. Austin Slater is their top priority, and I fully 100% truly believe that. I don't think they're going to sign anyone too much over Austin Slater's number. If they get to $3 million AAV, maybe, but it's going to be for a one-year deal. They're not going to make any long-term investments unless you think that they can go get Sasaki or a player like that. A guy I love, Nicky Beeps, who used to write for Baseball Perspectives. He's throwing out, what if you go get Glaber for a one-year $15 million deal? It's like, that has to hit. They have to spend $15 million on a second baseman who's really limited defensively, and he has to go out there and hit 20 home runs so that they can flip him at the trade deadline.
For a lot.
It's
like he has to not only hit, he has to be the best second baseman in baseball.
It's a fun exercise in MLB The Show 24, but it is not what the White Sox are going to do. And it's unfortunate and it's boring. But Austin Slater, that's your headliner. Like, or the headliner is truly whoever they get in the Crochet deal. Like, it's going to be a dreadful offseason, and it's time to get your expectations prepped for that. They're not going to be signing anyone of note.
Yeah, and I think this is going to continue for years to come. Like, if they're going to be in the target of 111, 110 losses next year, what's the use of signing another player next year? You're going to get the Austin Slaters maybe jacked up a little bit to like 3 to 4 million yet next year, but you're not going to be going and spending Gleyber Torres money. That's, to me, irresponsible just to have a shiny toy on a really horrible team. So, yeah, I'm good with the Austin Slaters of the world because this team is going to be bad. But also, I'm also looking at the right field situation, and they definitely don't trust Dominic Fletcher as a guy that they can send out for 162 no matter what, even if it's a rebuilding year, which, hey, they've seen him play. They know he has limitations, and I'm glad that they say okay, a right field platoon should work out. And if Andrew Benintendi needs a day off, you can put Austin Slater right in there. So these are type of signings. These are not sexy, but I think this is a really sound, solid signing by Chris Getz. Not going to move the needle at any point, but I think next year, by the end of the time of his White Sox career, you'd be like, that was all right. That was fine. Because that's how I was. I was kind of resigned after Paul DeJong got traded to Kansas City. I was like, that was worth it. That was fine. Yeah. And that's what I think we're going to be feeling in August of next year. Like, we enjoyed him. He was a good teammate, and he did exactly what he was supposed to do. And now he's got this low-level prospect in our minor league system.
Yeah. I mean, that's the perfect comp right now is Paul DeJong, not because of the way these guys games match up or they play different positions, everything, but it's the exact type of signing that we really should be expecting from this team with where it's at right now. A very inexpensive, relatively speaking. I'd like $1.75 million, but relatively speaking, inexpensive signing. 1 year, a guy who might bounce back to some former positive production. And if that's the case, then they can turn him into something, not even something exciting, but just something at the trade deadline. So I think that that's a perfect comp. I think that those kinds of signings might continue. You might see another one or two like that. I keep saying that they need a shortstop. They would be good to find a veteran shortstop like that. That they can pay that kind of money. Hell, maybe Paul DeJong. But I think that kind of signing, on the pitching staff as well is possible. So this isn't it. It's not over, but it might not get more exciting than this.
Also, I'm not trying to be a Debbie Downer. If the White Sox went out and wanted to sign Juan Soto, I would be thrilled. It's just I am sitting here telling you the truth and telling you what Chris Getz is saying. Chris Getz has been very clear about this plan. They ain't spending money, folks. They've spent the money, and it's on the offseason. It's on the front office. It's not going to be on the players in the field.
To answer Austin's question earlier where he's like, what's the plan for next year? Just look for somebody that's played in the NL West, the NL Central, and the AL East in 2025. That player will be coming to the White Sox. just like Paul DeYoung and Austin Slater.
All right, you guys are bumming me out.
Keep your eyes out.
Hey.
I know you're being real.
Hey, man.
We're taking a break. We got to take a break here on the CHGO White Sox podcast. We got to let you know about our friends over at Empire Today. With Empire Today, you get shop at home convenience, the right product for your needs, quick and professional installation, and a low price guarantee. Empire Today is the best place to get new flooring, so of course they have copycats, but Empire cannot be beaten on their quality, service, and speed, so that's why competitors advertise low-quality products that Empire simply won't carry. Empire won't promise the lowest prices because anyone who does is putting flooring in your home that they wouldn't put in theirs. Empire keeps shopping for floor simple with a curated product selection. Empire's philosophy is simple. It's to help you find what you need and not overwhelm you with thousands of choices and substitutes. And you can check out all of their great choices with their virtual floor designer. It's a great way to see how new floors will look in any space. It's easy. Just snap a picture and instantly see how new floors will transform your room. Schedule a free in-home estimate today with the experts over at Empire. All listeners can receive a $350 off discount when they use promo code CHGO. Restrictions apply. See EmpireToday.com/CHGO for details.
The Black Friday sales event is going on all month long at Ray Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, and Ram. That means you can score huge Black Friday savings on your next vehicle the entire month of November. But don't let these deals pass you up. Stop in today to browse their huge inventory of new vehicles, and right now, shop savings like 0% financing available on all new 2024 Jeep models. Or shop more than 125 vehicles priced under $20,000. Let the amazing team at Ray CDJR help you during each step of your car shopping journey. With Ray's Price Promise, the numbers you're hearing now are the same prices you can expect to shop in-store and online. That's because Ray's Price Promise means no price changing, no add-ons, and no hidden fees. Since they prioritize affordability for their customers, hurry in to Ray CDJR today and shop one of the Chicago area's largest inventories, then drive home with more money in your pocket than you would expect. So if you're in the market for a new vehicle, then you have to check out the team at Ray Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, and Ram because they are the only team we recommend. Visit them today on Route 12 in Fox Lake. For more information, visit Ray CDJR in Fox Lake or raycdjr.com, serving the community since 1963.
And to our favorite pal, Uncle Ted, don't spend money. Go trade that pitching for bats. Sox can clearly develop pitching and not hitting. We don't know that they clearly cannot develop hitting because they just brought in Ryan Fuller to develop hitting. So we have to see if they can develop hitting with the new people Ryan Fuller. We haven't seen the 2025 White Sox yet. So I hear you. I'm totally fine with Garrett Crochet being traded for a headliner of a bat and several bats, even with that. But again, we don't even know what Ryan Fuller can do. Maybe the whole point of Chris Getz's offseason is to fix the White Sox. Like, am I really being that down, Kevin? You're usually not on this show. It's usually Sarah. So, like, do you think that I'm being down or unrealistic? Like, what am I missing here? I think that other people aren't. Why do you think that the White Sox are going to spend $115 million on this team? They're not going over $75 million.
I think what finally happened is that Sean and Herb just decided to listen to what I've been saying for the last 2 or 3 months.
What did I miss?
No, I'm saying I'm usually Debbie Downer, right? That's usually my job, is to rain on everybody's parade, and it just turns out that you've joined me in the rain cloud.
I think because it's November, objective fandom is always a good thing, right? Being an objective fan is healthy. It puts you in a good space. You don't get hurt when things happen when they don't happen. But it's November, and the fact that the offseason just started, and you're saying that this is their headline deal. I mean that's a really big whew.
I'm not controlling the White Sox.
No,
I know. I know Uncle Ted thinks I control the White Sox, or that all three of us control the White Sox. And we're going to go to the committee with Chris Getz at dinner tonight and be like, you should trade Moncada and Kai Busch for fucking Brady House.
Easy there.
It is. Swear. But it's like, I like it. Like, let's look at all the clues. The clues are very laid out here. Austin Slater saying he's the top target.
I'm thinking of the guy driving home in this right now in the 5 o'clock hour. It's twilight. It's dark. There's snow all over the road.
Not too much driving. He's parked.
Oh, whatever. It's a mess. I mean, the White Sox, it's going to take a while to fix, and you're being an objective cover of the team, and that is very fair. It just sucks to listen to.
If you want someone to be or if you want to blame someone for being a Debbie Downer, blame the White Sox. They're in control of all this money. As Scott Merkin said, this is another go around with a rebuild. Like, listen, I would love for the White Sox to be competitive, winning a division title.
And here's the thing: Chris Getz knows all this. Chris Getz probably wishes he was the GM of a team that was competing for Juan Soto, right? The idea of what he's doing is he sees the situation and he's going, all right, we got a lot of work to do before I can be the GM of a team that goes out for Juan Soto, right? And so he's doing that work. And in the meantime, the team's not good. And that's just the reality. If you've seen rebuilds across baseball, Sean and I were talking about this earlier, you can be in the NBA or the NFL or even hockey and quote unquote tank for one player, right? And it solves all your woes kind of thing, or will after a few years of supplementing that player. In baseball, you can't go for the one guy because that's not how the sport works. That guy who you take number 1 pick in the draft might just be bad or get hurt. And then what do you do, right? So it is a multi-year process. Go look at what the Houston Astros did. The Houston Astros have been at the top of baseball for the better part of the last decade.
Yeah.
They had to lose 100 games 3 years in a row in order to get there. And so, or they lost 100 games 3 years in a row while they were getting there, I should say. Not necessarily that one produced the other. But that's where the White Sox are right now. And White Sox fans should be enormously frustrated by that because they just sat through it several years ago when Rick Hahn tried to do it, and it just didn't work out the way that anybody over there thought it was going to. Now they got to do it again, and Chris Getz is doing a much greater and deeper undertaking than even what Rick Hahn tried to do. So go back and look at those off seasons that Rick Hahn had while this team was in this phase of that rebuild. They weren't exciting. Were you thrilled that they got Ivan Nova?
Yes,
Were you thrilled that they got Nomar Mazara? I mean, those were the moves back then too. So absolutely be frustrated that this is the thing. Do not be surprised because we have been hearing that this was going to be the case for a while now.
The other day, I told Bears fans to soak in that they're going to lose to the Green Bay Packers before the game started. I was like, don't get your hopes up if they have a lead in that game, because it is harder for you to think about victory and then it gets snatched out in front of you. And it did. That's what happened. And that's why some Bears fans went from exaltation to depression. This is what I'm telling you, White Sox fans. The other day I said maybe it might be 10 years for them to rebuild. And some bristles like 10 years. That's ridiculous. This thing might not work. So they might have to do it in a couple iterations. Houston had the draft where they could be the number 1 pick multiple years in a row. Same thing with Baltimore. The White Sox cannot be the first pick multiple years in a row because of this new dumbass rule that they introduced a couple years back. So they will have to hit on.
Wouldn't be calling it a dumbass rule if you were a Cleveland Guardians fan.
I would not. If I was in that garbage city, I'm like, yes, let's go. Sorry, Cleveland.
If we weren't at 10 right now and the White Sox were at 1 and they were going to do it again in 2025, I'd be all for it.
Oh, my God. So great. But it's going to take a minute. You got to sit in this. You got to sit at this bottom level and not think about 5 years from now. You got to sit in this. They're going to be bad. And the Austin Slaters of the world will be the type of sightings that you're going to be having to the White Sox. And you won't be excited. He won't be like selling tickets. You won't be going to a Sox Fest like, well, I can't wait to get Austin Slater's signature. No, you're going to be here for a while. Get comfortable here until they're ready to go. And I think it's the perfect thing to do for Chris Getz. You got to crawl before you walk. They just lost 121 games. You don't want them to go from, hey, we lost a bunch of games. We're going to go and sign mid-tier free agents just to appease you so you can buy a season ticket and then lose 110 games next year anyways.
So you can dig out your Jose Quintana jersey again.
Exactly.
Jared saying, and I do want to clarify this because you said, Herb, Jared said, Herb, you're acting like they won't be competitive for the division in the next 10 years. You didn't say that specifically, and you didn't say that they wouldn't make the wild card. You said that you find it hard for the next 10 years for them to win a division title. And hey, they did go 10 years without winning a division title, 2008 to 2021. So at least division title champion, I don't think it's crazy to say they won't win one in the next 10 years. I think they'll make the playoffs.
And I'm not talking, they might in 7 years win or get into the playoffs. But I'm talking about this thing to be rebuilt. I'm sure that Chris Getz doesn't want it to be rebuilt for, oh, we made the playoffs. This year we didn't. No, we made the playoffs again. We missed it. I mean, battling for the AL Central each year, and if you don't get there, you're a wild card team. That's going to take 10 years. Sustain success for this White Sox team in the playoffs. Yes, they might come up and get one of those championships or a wild card in there, but I don't see them just being consistently good for a while now. So sit here, be here. If you guys are going to think 5 years and like, well, we'll fire Chris Getz after 5 years, it doesn't work. That's not what's going to happen, guys. I definitely will stake my reputation on 5 years from now we'll be kind of in the same situation, but on the upswing of that rebuild.
We'll see. I think Chris Getz is going to have a fairly long leash. The leash will be dependent on if ownership changes or not, and I think that's the biggest thing, at least for Chris Getz's next 5 years, on if he can still maintain favor with the ownership, whether it be Jerry or somebody else.
Let's also too realize that the folks behind the scenes, what they've been saying, right? Because there's been a lot of compliments from people who aren't in our position about what they're hearing from Chris Getz. And so while think about how at the same time as nobody can really see what's happening right now, and they just have to be like, oh, there's no moves at the major league with the major league roster, but he's investing all this money into the behind the scenes. Boy, I hope it works. It sounds like from the people behind the scenes that they are excited at the prospect of it working. Right. And maybe, Herb, that does take sooner than you think. That does go quicker than you think, right? The idea is that there's a lot to do. There's a lot of work behind the scenes to get done, but maybe there is also a chance that they're doing it the right way now and that will yield the results that they hope it yields sooner rather than later.
And we've wanted them to pick from organizations that have done well before. They go and pick from the Orioles, who've just won 200 games or 200 have won 100 games in back-to-back seasons. They pick from the 2023 World Series Texas Rangers, and they pick from the Tampa Bay Rays of the NL in the Milwaukee Brewers. And even with that too, like Marcus Timms, they're picking a former Yankee hitting coach. I understand that he's bounced from Miami to Los Angeles, but those are some pretty bad organizations. Maybe Chris Getz is saying, hey, we got Marcus Timms who's being overlooked because, the Yankees ran into a rut, but most people do run into a rut with the Yankees. And I think he was there for 5 years. Like a guy that lasted in New York for 5 years as the hitting coach. I know what the White Sox do, and they weren't even that good, like the Yankees during that time. He kept the job for 5 years. Like that's pretty good for Marcus Timms. I'm interested to see what they can build and what can happen. And even to that point, Pat Murphy, who is now the NL Manager of the Year, was on foul territory yesterday, speaking to the loss of Walker McKinnon, the new bench coach for the White Sox, former run prevention coordinator for the Brewers. He said, yeah, Walker is magnificent. He's been behind the scenes for a long time. Since we put him on the field and in the dugout, he's continued to make strides. He's not that young, but he seems young, looks young. He really understands that major league game. He's a ruthless decision maker. He's got a lot of great talents, and I love Will. Being around Will for a year, I love him. I think that combination is going to be lethal, referring to Venable. I think the White Sox are moving in the right direction for sure. It's going to hurt us, no question. Walk only has 9 fingers, so we'll be able to get him we'll be able to get a 10-figure guy in there. It'll be a great challenge to replace him. I have not been able to do any research on Walker McKinnon's hand. I don't know if he has 9 fingers or not, but overall,
that was not in the Brewers media guide.
No, it was not in the Brewers media guide. Weirdly enough, they didn't have him holding up both of his hands, showing off his 9 fingers. But I do think it's, again, interesting to your point that it does seem like the outside of baseball is speaking well to what Chris Getz is building. And it's very weird to hear Will Venable say, oh, yeah, Chris Getz, he's got a great resume and he's got a great rapport around the league. I'm very speculative what Getz can build, but so far, over 2 years or a year and a half, it seems like they're gaining interest. Even Bannister, too. Bannister coming from the Giants, who are one of the top organizations in baseball, at least in the analytical department, being able to pull out a team that won 107 games out of nowhere. Like, this is modern-day baseball, and it seems like the White Sox are embracing it. It's not over yet. We haven't seen the results, but process-wise, it's interesting.
It's very interesting, and I'm not casting aspersions against what he has done. He has done an outstanding job, much better than I would have given him credit for. Like all the people you're talking about that he has got underneath his umbrella, it seems like they're doing the right things. The process is good. The results will eventually come. I believe positive results are on their way, but it will have to take them, firstly, working with each other to understand how they do implement these things that they want to do. And then secondly, the players buying into those things, and if they buy in and it actually working. So that's why I'm thinking this is a long go, because it's not just going to be like a movie where it's like a montage and they're just, hitting ground ball. Oh, that's how you catch it? Oh my God. And then they're just showing games after next year and the White Sox, doing well playing baseball. No, that won't be the reality we're sitting in next year. They were a bad defensive team last year. I think they're going to be a bad defensive team next year. The same thing with hitting. I think they're maybe incrementally improved each year, but it'll take some time. This are great signings on the behind the scenes staff, but Austin Slaters of the world will be coming, and there'll be an Austin Slater on the pitching staff coming in the free agency, and it won't be sexy, and no one will like it, and you'll be losing 110 games, and you'll be like, oh, God, the White Sox are still the White Sox. But you got to sit here. You got to be here, be where your feet are, as Colson Montgomery is. You're going to be here for a while, so get comfortable. Pull up a chair.
Yeah, I mean, again, you were disgusted, revolted, whatever word you want to use, on me trying to bring back Chris Flexen.
Yep.
I think $2.25 million sounds pretty good for Chris Flexen. Chris Flexen gave us 160 innings. Hey, beggars can't be choosers.
Hey,
at least the guy can go out and work. Jared in the chat saying Houston did that when you were talking about them losing, did that without the new lottery rules.
Yeah.
And that's the one thing that I do want to bring up. Astros from 2012 to 2014 had the #1 overall selection in the MLB draft. They took Carlos Correa, Mark Appel, and Brady Aiken for a career WAR total of
whatever Carlos Correa has.
Yeah.
44.1 plus 0.3 from Mark Appel. So in your face, Vinny.
But
He did come back after
But
the
there you
Phillies.
go. That's baseball.
And it also lacks context because then Aiken doesn't sign with the Astros. They get the 2nd overall pick, which turns into Bregman. So there's 79 WAR for you there.
Shout out to the Astros for that pick, by the way. Chris
Aiken?
Bryant.
Oh,
right
Chris
after him.
Yeah,
So,
Chris Bryant went after.
Oh,
shout out.
Got you. So
Yeah.
you win
Shout
your
out.
little World Series because of that. But yeah, no, I mean the one thing at least forgets is you have 121 loss season, and you're not even able to be rewarded in the draft. I think it's fine. I know this is a weird statement to say, but he kind of deserves a year to tank. If this is going to be completely flipping the squad, we don't think that there's anything that they can do, even if they spend $200 million to make this team even watchable in 2025. So be bad.
200 is a lot.
It is. But also,
But like, hold on, 200 total?
Yeah.
'Cause, I mean, all right, I'll try to build a team with 200 million.
If they spent $200 million
Oh my God.
this offseason, that would be something. I don't know if it would be enough to, make them really do anything, make them win it all. But
I mean,
that would
barely-
you would think that you could spread that money out pretty well.
they spent $200 million. I mean,
Soto
Soto would be part of that.
Huh?
Soto would be part of that.
Well, he'd be most of
Well,
it.
no, 200 million. I mean, that
I mean,
wouldn't
just
even
like
get Soto.
you were talking about $200 million in aggregate in the complete contract, or just in 2025 that will be the
I don't know,
salary.
what do you guys-
Payroll.
You want to?
Oh,
Oh,
the
you want to
payroll.
get active payroll?
Yeah,
Active payroll for 2025?
I mean, we're just clarifying what you were saying.
Yeah,
I'm just saying. I'm clarifying what I'm saying
So
because
you
now I'll
like-
put together a team.
yeah. You go $40 million for Soto. I don't know who.
Shoot, I'm getting Willie Adames for 26 million. too.
Maybe.
Let's go. I mean,
Hey.
hey, if we got 200 million, I mean that's what, like 1/8 of the budget right there.
You could just pay Crochet.
You could just pay Crochet. This is all coming together.
You don't even need to not
It's
do
almost
that.
like money could solve all of our
You don't
problems.
even need to do that. You could just not trade him.
That's also fair.
Just
We
stay
can
here.
Keep him here forever. Yeah, I don't know. You can't. Dan's asking. We can get the top pick next year, right? Yes. So in the 2026 MLB draft, they can get the #1 overall pick. But then again, it still has to be within the whims of the lottery.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly. The Cleveland had the #1 pick in this past summer's
No
draft,
guarantee.
and they did not have the worst record by a long shot.
No.
Yeah.
So I mean, like,
See, this is the thing. They'll have a bad year next year and then like finish 5th in the lottery and like, ugh,
Right.
God.
and then they would be back to being outside of the top 10 because of their market size.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Correct, yeah.
Yeah, it'll be
So,
the worst. The
they'll get
best
a
thing they could do
chance.
is, if they're going to do that, be the 7th team. If they're the 7th team, then they could re-enter into the draft to be the first team the year after.
So in other words, no matter what they do, Cleveland's going to stay good, folks.
Yeah,
Pretty much.
That's what I'm saying too. Like, people think the other teams are going to stay static, and the White Sox are just going to have to get up to that level. Like, no, those teams are going to stay at that level and or improve because they're relatively young, and that Bobby Witt Jr. is a thing.
Because 3 of those teams would not be beholden to those market rules, right? The White Sox and the Tigers would be, but the
Tigers?
I mean, Detroit, big market is Detroit considered a big market? I don't know.
I think so.
What are the rules in
Yeah.
terms of what is a big
Just
market and what isn't?
arbitrary, dumb rules? Because
We know though that Kansas City and Cleveland aren't.
yeah, the White
Yeah.
Sox in Chicago's a big market. The White Sox aren't.
Well, but they are according to those rules.
Yeah, which is dumb.
I'm looking it up. I'm sorry.
It's just so disappointing because
I don't know if it's budget size or not.
while we're going through this, we could have been the Houstons and the Baltimores in the past, and I think every White Sox fan's like, you know what, it's not ideal, but in 5 years, all these first round picks, these number one picks overall, hopefully will come to fruition and we'll all have great players. But we're going to have the 10th pick in 2025, which is a crapshoot, but you're going to have the 10th best person, or at least versus MLB standards, to choose from. And that is not sad, but it's like you lost all those games for what? The 10th best person in an MLB draft? It's going to be tough.
But, I mean, here's the thing, too. Remember, all you need to do is look at the White Sox in order to know what those picks mean sometimes, right? They took Nick Madrigal and Andrew Vaughn with those back-to-back picks. The next year, they're outside the top 10. They take Garrett Crochet, who now is the best of the bunch, right? Mm-hmm. So, I mean, it's about nailing the pick. It's not about we got to get the number one pick. It's about getting the pick right. Hagen Smith might be amazing, the guy they just took at number 5.
Right.
And
he might look like Andrew Vaughn through all the minor leagues and then come into the major leagues and be a dud.
He might also do that. That's baseball.
I mean, Garrett Crochet wasn't even seen as a starter before spring training this year. I mean, like that even glow up where we're able to trade him for top prospects is a crazy revelation. I mean, it's absurd. The words from Jim Callis on MLB.com: teams that receive revenue sharing payouts cannot receive a lottery pick for more than 2 years in a row, and those that don't cannot get a top 6 choice in consecutive drafts. Furthermore, a club that's ineligible for the lottery cannot select higher than 10th overall. So they cannot receive a lottery pick more than 2 years in a row. So I guess.
Right.
So
they can't get a top 6 pick 2 years in a row.
Okay. So if they get a top 6 pick in 2026, they're ineligible and back to the top 10 in 2027.
Correct. The reason that the reason that they're picking 10th in 2025 is because they picked in the top 6 in 2024.
Fun. Any other thoughts on either Austin Slater or this offseason before we go to a different topic here?
No.
You go.
Okay, I'll go. All right, time to talk a little bit about what tomorrow will look like. There is the non-tender deadline that is coming up at 5 p.m. Central tomorrow on Friday. We will have a show at 4 p.m., so if there is any news prior to that, we will be breaking it down. Here are the people that they have to make a decision on whether to tender or non-tender, and these projections are per MLB Trade Rumor. Andrew Vaughn, they have to decide whether to tender him for $6.4 million. And again, that's an estimate. They have to decide whether to tender or not Garrett Crochet for $2.9 million. They have to decide whether to tender or not Gavin Sheets for $2.6 million. Reliever Enyel De Los Santos for $1.7 million. Justin Anderson for $1.1 million. And Steven Wilson for $1 million. Nicky Lopez, Jimmy Lambert, and Matt Foster have all selected free agency. Is there anything that you're leaning here? Do you feel like anything could possibly happen tomorrow with Sheets and Vaughn?
I think at the end of the day, all those guys will be back, with the exception of Crochet, who's likely to get traded, but he will be tendered a contract. But I think it's way more interesting than that. You know what I mean? Like, jumping to the outcome ignores the fact that there's different stuff that could happen. The White Sox, we've been talking today about how the White Sox might not spend more than $1.75 million on a free agent. Well, more than $6 million for Andrew Vaughn, shaving that off the payroll would be in line with, cost-effective roster building, right? But then there's the idea that they spent a third pick on this guy. Can they hope for a good first half and turn him into something on the trade market? They could just decide to non-tender him at this time next year, right, when he'll be arbitration eligible again. So Sheets is very similar in that regard, but at a much smaller price point. I think there's a lot of interesting stuff there. They could decide to save a million here and a million there by getting rid of De Los Santos, right? Or Steven Wilson. So I think Anderson will be back because he might be their closer at the moment. But I think all, what was it, 6 of those guys will be back, 5 or 6 will be back at the end of the day when we're talking to you here tomorrow. But I don't know if I'm certainly not putting a 100% chance on that. I think it's an interesting cases on a lot of fronts.
I'll be surprised if any of those guys not any of those guys, but the 2 main guys, the Andrew Vaughn and the Gavin Sheets, would be gone. Mainly because of the reasons I gave you, and mainly because of Ryan Fuller being the new director of hitting, where he was talking about how Ryan O'Hearn, who has a similar profile, similar age to what Gavin Sheets is, kind of was dragging back and started his swing back before he started forward. And I think that Ryan Fuller probably sees him as the same as Ryan O'Hearn, who went from like an 83 OPS plus to a 122 OPS plus with the Baltimore Orioles. And I'm sure he sees similar things in what Andrew Vaughn brings to the table. And if it's only, $5 million? It's a lot of money. It'd be better for them to actually tender him that contract than let him go and then some other team fix him.
Yeah, I mean, what is there to fix? He's short, slow, and just not that powerful. I mean, Ryan asking, could they tender Vaughn and then flip him in a trade? There's just nothing that interesting about his profile right now. If he does have an all right April, May, June, I think it's possible that they could trade him, but I don't think they're going to get anything really interesting for Vaughn. You even threw out the idea if he hits 12 home runs by the trade deadline, Vinny, would that draw interest?
Just picking a number,
right? Just throwing it out there. Like, I think for him to truly have interest, like he'd either have to have like 20 home runs and really show like that power threat and have a slugging percentage over 500, which he's never done, or he'd have to just be a batting average merchant, just line drive after line drive, single after single, some pop here, but able to draw walks. Like, we have not even seen the true Andrew Vaughn, who had like a 500 on base percentage in Cal. Like, this is not somebody that can really dominate the strike zone and force a pitcher to throw him a mistake. And even then, when he gets those mistakes, he's not powerful enough to damage them. So I'm fine if Vaughn stays for 2025 because, again, I have no expectations for this team. I'm expecting them, I guess, to lose 110 games and get the number 1 overall draft pick, or at least try for it and get a 22% chance to get that pick. I think Sheets, too, the more I look at it, I don't really care if any of these guys aren't on it. I just assume that they will be. But this is for left-handed hitters against right-handed pitchers that saw at least 2,000 pitches in 2024. There are 56 left-handers who saw 2,000 pitches, and here are the barrel percentages, or here are the barrel numbers. 56 on this list. Sal Frelick with 3, Stephen Kwan with 7, Bryce Terang with 10, Luis Arraez with 10, Andres Jimenez with 11, Josh Smith with 11, Nolan Shanuel at 13, Bryson Stott at 14, and then at 48 out of 56, Gavin Sheets at 16. He is just not powerful, even though there are some numbers that when he plays first base and he's going up against lefties, like, he could be dangerous. But overall, for 4 years, we've seen a pretty poor player. I don't think there's any reason to cut him just because the White Sox have no talent and there's nobody really pushing him up from behind. But if there was a thought process with the first overall draft pick in the Rule 5 draft, we could find a cheaper lefty. I think it's possible. We'll see what happens. Go ahead.
Would you be shocked if they non-tendered Vaughn tomorrow?
No, I wouldn't be shocked at anything. I would be shocked if they non-tendered Garrett Crochet. But outside of that, no.
Right.
I think I'd be more shocked at them non-tendering Crochet and more shocked at them picking up Enyel De Los Santos's tender. I think De Los Santos is an easy non-tender at $1.7 million. But we'll see. I don't think there's anything really too interesting. I mean, you're going to pay Justin Anderson to be the closer, and De Los Santos is making like 600 more than him. I just think they're just going to non-tender him. But anyways, here are some interesting things that I saw before we end. Hit that thumbs up button. Make sure you subscribe to the CHGO Sports YouTube channel. Pump is not hump, saying, so is Benintendi on the 40-man. For right now, I think it'd be interesting if they try to work out a deal where they give him deferred money and they free up a left field spot, but I don't think that'll happen. This is from Coach Josh Rodriguez. I believe it is Coach Rodriguez with an S2 on X. If you want to flash the graphic Ed you made there, Kevin. Here is the manager tendencies for sack bunts, and the sack plus is very similar to OPS plus. It's grading the results of a sacrifice bunt compared to the league. And you can see that Pedro Grifol, when he called the bunt, he was third in the league at decisions.
So it worked.
He was making the right decisions on when to sack bunt. And the most important thing, his sack bunt rate, 1.6%, which isn't super high. You could see Torey Lovello at a 2.1, even Ron Washington at 2.1. What's most intriguing is when Grady Sizemore called it, he was making a worse decision at a 91 sack plus, and he was bunting at the same rate, 1.7. So no real change there, at least the amount of sack bunts between Grady and Pedro Grifol, but Pedro Grifol had more success with it. I don't think there's anything to take from there besides Grady Sizemore was using the same information and used it the same exact way. So I'll be interested to see if Chris Getz continues to see a higher sack bunt rate to where Alex Cora, a guy that Will Venable served under as bench coach, 0.8, and even Bruce Bochy at 1.2.
Lower, 0.0.
I wish. That's going to do it for the CHGO White Sox podcast. Make sure you join us in our Die Hard program at allchgo.com/diehard. You get exclusive access to all of our written content at allchgo.com. You get entry into our CHGO Discord, where Vinny will be answering questions tonight, and you also get discounts on merch and events. Hit that thumbs up button and make sure you subscribe to the CHGO White Sox podcast. We do have a podcast tomorrow at 4 p.m., so make sure you're tuning in for the non-tender deadline. That's Vinnie Duber. That's Herb Lawrence. I'm Sean Anderson. Thank you to Kevin Wells for producing the show. We'll talk to you tomorrow. Goodbye.
We all silly like the mayor.